The Crown of Peace. Written by Kelsey Brook. Read by Kelsey Brook. Chapter 1. Iris. Sometimes there's a moment when you know things will never be the same. Mine was the night of our 20th anniversary when my kingdom got attacked. Now I was moments from death. I had lost my kingdom, my family, and now soon my life. I pulled my legs close to my chest as I sat in my own dungeon. How could this be happening to me? I listened to the rain through the barred window in the small room. Where was William now? The question kept running through my mind. Was he dead or alive? I shook my head. He couldn't be dead. I refused to think that someone I had only met a few days ago had given up so much to protect me. Did he do it because it was his duty? Or for me? It didn't matter, as long as if he was alive. I couldn't let another person's blood be on my hands. I thought of all these things as I laid my head on my knees and closed my eyes. I started to drift to sleep, my thoughts on the past and what life was like before I got into this mess. I opened my eyes to the sun shining in my room. I looked across from my blue bed and saw my dress was lying on the chair where I had set it the night before. It was one of the most beautiful dresses I had ever seen. The dress was a light petal pink with crystals embedded on the sleeves. At least I was able to wear such a beautiful gown when I gave my speech at the ball tonight. I threw my covers off and stretched my arms in the air. The ray of sun that came through the window shined on my face. I went to my vanity stand made of marble and fine gold. My father always wanted me to have the best. Every item I owned was probably worth more than one of our villagers made in their whole life. I grabbed my brush and began to run it through my dark brown hair. It was exactly like my mother's. I had her waves and all. I would be an exact copy of her if it weren't for my dark blue eyes that matched my father's. I would always hear from our servants or distant kingdoms when they would come to visit how anyone could tell I was the daughter of King Jaden and Queen Brooke. I had finally finished brushing my hair and changed to a simple sky blue dress. It had a dark blue ribbon around the waist with a bow in the back. It was my favorite dress to wear around the castle. I did a quick twirl, which was a little childish, but I just loved the way my dresses spun. Then I opened my door to the hall. I jumped back, surprised to see a guard outside my room. I couldn't help but let out a yelp. "Oh, I'm so sorry," the guard said, turning around to face me. He got on one knee and bowed before me. I held my chest and caught my breath and started to laugh. "No, I'm sorry. I wasn't informed that I would have a guard today," I said, catching my breath. "I have papers," the guard said, and trying to reach inside his pouch. This must have been his first time inside the castle in guard patrol. "It's okay. It's most likely because we have guests coming today for the ball," I said, thinking out loud. "Yes, Your Highness," the young knight said. He was still looking at the ground. I felt terrible. He must have been so afraid that he was going to get in trouble. I smiled and then knelt on my knees next to him. "Listen, you did everything right. You're not going to get in trouble," I explained. He lifted his head and met my eyes. They were a bright green. I had to blink a few times to stop staring at them. "Thank you, Your Highness. It's my first time on guard post, and I didn't want to mess it up," he said with a sigh of relief and ran his hand through his messy black hair. I smiled. He had opened up so fast. "You may call me Iris." "Sir," I said and stood up, brushing off my dress. "Oh, well, I'm not a sir yet. I'm not even a knight," he rambled on. I giggled. "Well, I'm the princess, so I can call you whatever I want." "Sir?" "William." He sighed, then gave me a smile. "Well, Sir William, I will inform my father of how well you guarded my room," I said. He finally stood up. I always thought it was so silly when people would bow to me. "I would appreciate that. It's hard work, standing here, doing nothing," he said, then looked to the right and then back at me with a smirk. "Oh, I'm sure," I gave him a sarcastic nod. "Sorry, that was informal." He shook his head at himself, then he looked at the floor. "It's okay. I like it when people treat me like a normal person," I said, without thinking about what I was saying. Why did I say that? If my father had learned what I had said, he would lecture me about what an honor it is to be royalty. I know it was, but I had always longed for a normal life as well. I shook my head and was back in reality. "Well, good day to you, Sir William." I gave him a curtsy, and he returned with a bow. I was quite impressed by his form. I then continued down the halls and met my mother to practice for tonight's ball. I had to give a speech about how important peace was between our kingdoms. I had to perfect it. People knew my father was the king of peace. Tonight was our 20th anniversary of our peace for our domain. The festival was going to be huge and at least last for a week. Decorations such as banners and flowers hung down the streets of the town and through the halls of the castle. Everywhere looked so lovely, but was nothing compared to the ballroom. My mother and her maids had been working on it all week, preparing the already majestic ballroom to something that belonged in a dream. I opened the doors and entered the room, where the maids were zipping around placing flowers on the tables. I watched as the ones behind them set flowers and plates with silverware. I scanned them hard at work, then caught my mother's eye. She stood in the middle of the ballroom, pointing and giving instructions to the servants. I walked up to her and curtsied. "You look beautiful, but where's your dress?" she asked as she looked me up and down. "I didn't want to get it dirty," I said with a shrug. The truth was, I didn't feel like parading around in my dress before tonight. "It doesn't matter. Let's practice your speech. You will need to speak up so everyone can hear you from all across the room," she said, taking a few steps away from me. I cleared my thoughts and took a deep breath. "I first want to thank you all for coming." My mother clapped her hands and cut me off. When she clapped her hands, the whole room froze. Everyone stopped what they were doing and laid eyes on my mom. She looked around and rolled her eyes and waved her hands in the air. "Back to work!" she called out. Without a moment of hesitation, everyone went back to work. They moved quicker than they had before. "What was it?" I asked, trying to be patient. I had no other plans today, but this happened each time we practiced my speech. She would stop me and correct the littlest things I did wrong. "You're yelling, darling. What did I say? Don't yell. Project," she said, waving her arms in the air. "Right, I'm sorry," I said, then took a deep breath and started again. "Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. It means everything to me and my family. We have kept the peace for 20 years now, but we couldn't have done it without each of you." "Shoulders back, please," my mom sighed and crossed her arms. "Right." I took a deep breath and closed my eyes, trying to focus and concentrate on getting it right. I opened my mouth to speak when the doors swung open. The captain of the guards, followed by about 20 other guards, entered the ballroom. He wasted no time as he pointed to different entrances and corners, showing them where they would be on post tonight. "Are you kidding me?" my mom sighed and stomped over to the captain. "Good afternoon, your majesty." He smiled. He didn't kneel or bow, but he was my mother's brother, so that was his excuse for not being formal. "What are you doing, Erickson?" my mom asked, placing her hands on her hips. "I'm following orders from the king," he said, with a mischievous grin. "I'm trying to train right now," my mom said, then took a step closer. These two always fought with one another. That's what siblings do. Or so I heard. I didn't know for sure because I didn't have any of my own. But I had grown up with these two bickering all the time. "If you don't like it, talk to your husband. I have my orders," Uncle Erickson said with a smirk. "Oh, I will, and I'll come back with orders for you." My mom turned around, flipping her dark hair behind her. "You made her angry, so I should be mad at you. But you got me out practicing that speech for the next 5 hours. I smiled at my uncle. He gave me a thumbs up and turned to his group behind him. I spun on my heels and was about to leave when I remembered. William. I told him I would let my father know, but why not let the captain of the guards himself know as well? I spun back around and walked up to my uncle. He hadn't started giving orders yet. "Uncle Erickson, I wanted to tell you what a fantastic job William did guarding my room." Saying it out loud did sound silly. It wasn't hard, and it wasn't like he stopped anyone from coming and hurting me. All he did was stand there. "He didn't break anything, did he?" my uncle asked me, alarmed. "No, he didn't. He did a great job, and he is such a loyal knight," I said with as much authority as I could. "Is that what he is now, a knight?" my uncle laughed, then looked at the other guards, who had been listening in our conversation, and begun to laugh as well. "I don't understand. You're the one that signed him to guard my room. He has to be good," I said, placing my hands on my hips. I was ready to defend this boy. I didn't know anything about him, but he was so kind. I had to do something. "The reason he got to guard your room is that we lost a bet," my uncle laughed. "So he's not a guard or a knight?" I asked. "Not at all. He's hardly a squire." My uncle laughed and then shook his head to himself. The guards behind him joined in the laughter. "Well, you should use him more," I stated, still holding my ground. "Yeah, I'm sure he can stand somewhere again." My uncle laughed one last time, then took a deep breath and looked back at his men. "Time for work," he shouted, and started to point at the places they would be going. I rolled my eyes. He was lucky he was my uncle. If anyone else had ignored me like that, my father would make sure to not let them go unpunished. I headed back to my room and stopped in the hall and looked out the window. I smiled at the flowers in the garden that made the gray bricks of the castle bright with color. When I was about to turn back down the hall, I saw William in the training yard. He was picking up broken shields and swords all by himself. I would have enough time to inform him that I let the captain of the guard know about how well he had done. Then I could go back to my room and finish getting ready for the ball tonight. I headed down to the training yard. I stopped in my tracks, then got nervous. Was William coming to the ball tonight? The whole kingdom had gotten an invitation. What if he came? I shook my head. Why did it matter? It's not like I had fallen in love with this boy after one conversation. I rolled my eyes at myself for being so ridiculous, then hurried down to the training yard. I followed the path that led to the training yard. I don't know why I was so excited to speak with him again. I didn't know him, and when we last spoke, it was less than 10 minutes. I didn't know what it was about him. After I told him he wasn't going to get in trouble and that he did nothing wrong, he talked to me like I was an average person. Up to me that he was afraid of messing up his one chance. I got to the gate and opened it. The sun was shining down hard, which made it bright. It was the beginning of spring, so it wasn't quite warm outside yet, and dark clouds were moving in from the north, which mostly meant rain or snow. I entered the field and watched William for a moment, as I thought of what to say. I took a deep breath and walked up to him. Well, if it isn't Sir William, I said with a bright smile. The young boy had his arms full with dull swords. Princess Iris, what can I do for you? He went to drop the swords. I put my hand up. Please, I can follow you, I said, then gestured with my hand for him to lead the way. Thanks, he said with a smile. He then headed towards the blacksmith that was in the yard. Wait, are you a guard and a blacksmith? I asked, looking at the swords with him. He looked at me and then shrugged with a shy smile. So, I spoke with the captain of the guards. I informed him how well you did last night, I said with a smile. I mean, you're not hurt, kidnapped, or dead, so I say I did a great job standing there as well, William said with a slight grin. I laughed. Well, I for one appreciate that, I said, placing my hands in front of me. And I appreciate that you let the captain know I did a fine job. The truth is, the only reason I was able to guard was I won a bet. I was hoping that I was going to guard tonight, but guarding you was an honor, William said, not looking up from his work. I heard about that bet, but what was it? I asked. I was dying to know, and was so worked up with my uncle, I had forgotten to ask. I beat him in a spar, William said with an arrogant smirk. Oh, you beat my uncle, the captain of the guards, in a sparring match? I asked, astonished. My uncle was the best swordsman in the kingdom. Well, he was the best, until he lost the bet, I suppose. Yeah, it was a close match, but I prevailed. He laughed. You should have seen his face. I couldn't help but laugh. I thought of my prideful uncle losing to his squire and all the knights gasping and holding in their laughs. I would have given anything to see it. Well, congratulations on your win. It was nice talking with you, William. Except I need to get ready for tonight's ball, I said, and gave a little curtsy. Thank you for everything. I won't forget it, William said, and then bowed in return. Any time. Are you going? I asked, without realizing what I had said. Why did I ask that? I had been so worried a few moments ago about him being there, and now I was asking him if he was going to be there? What was wrong with me? Am I going where? He asked, as his dark hair fell in his eyes when he looked up at me. To the ball tonight. The whole kingdom will be there, and I know you might only be a squire, but you deserve to celebrate the peace between our kingdoms, too, I said with a smile. I turned around and left without getting to hear his answer. I didn't know why, but I didn't want to know for sure if he was going to be there. But either way, something about tonight made me feel like it would be a night I would never forget.